I remind the captain, the starship enters the zone. Now entering the neutral zone.
Welcome back to the Neutral Zone. You're at the Neutral Zone chat with Josh and John, and today we're going to be talking about Episode 5 of Season 2 of Discovery, Saints of Imperfection. I am wearing a suit today because I had a cocktail party on Starbase 23. John, how's it going?
How was the shrimp cocktail on Starbase 13 there? I haven't been there in a while.
It was out of this world. But they had the SETI Alpha 5 little earwig things, and they were delicious as well. Once they get to be a certain size and they don't kill you anymore, they're actually quite delectable.
This is SETI Alpha 5. Yes, outstanding. That's great stuff. Josh, I think before we get started with the importance of talking about this week's episode, we need to take a moment to salute the Rover opportunity that apparently has finally gone on to the great V'ger in the sky.
That's right. It's V'ger. It's almost like V'ger. But one of the things I heard is that Mars is completely populated by robots. So just think of that. But after 14 years, and it was only supposed to last 90 days, and it went 28 miles. I mean,
28
Rover
miles.
did some great work and gave us some great pictures of the Martian landscape.
217,000 images. Just amazing. I mean, we put a remote control car on Mars, which is fabulous, and it
lasted 14 years. And I mean, I remember I had a remote control car when I was a kid, and I was lucky to get 8 minutes out of the thing.
And that's pretty awesome. It was probably on concrete too. It wasn't even on like Mars on top of it all, and survived like a trip there. This just shows me why when we look at the Enterprise, we look at Voyager, we look at what Starfleet builds. It's good old Earth, and the kind of ingenuity we do with these kind of remote control cars like the Opportunity. That's why we rock space, and I salute you, NASA, for getting us there.
Well, I don't know if you saw the the thing where it said basically the last words of Rover was like, "It's getting dark. My battery's low, and it's getting dark." Those were its last words.
And that's appropriate.
Last words.
And it was a big sandstorm. It was like the one that killed what's his name on The Martian. It just like finally wiped it out. So I mean, we understand that. So hopefully sometime in the future we will get a ship out there and be able to bring it back home and charge her back up and see if it runs again.
Send her back out, huh? Yeah,
that would be good. Send it to the next place.
Neat.
So, Josh, we had some nice comments. A few viewers who have been picking us up on Neutral Zone chat, and we like to be a safe place. We like to discuss Discovery. We do say we're pro Discovery, although when we get talking about this episode,
we're gonna have a little difficulty today, aren't we, John?
You may think that I maybe have been switched out with a Terran universe, John, who doesn't like Discovery. But we'll see here. But what was a couple of comments you saw there on the site there, Josh?
Well, I believe it was Photons for Free on Instagram said that we were their favorite Star Trek Discovery podcast, and darn right we should be, because we're pro Discovery here, and so they said to watch and listen because we're funny and hilarious and well informed, and I agree with and the subtext was that we're both very, very handsome men.
Well, you could tell
they didn't say that outright, but
you could tell they're listening on the podcast in their car, and they're not watching the thing. Right. And we are getting all those things up everywhere on YouTube and Instagram and everywhere else. But thanks for that comment. We had a couple others come in. We don't have time to kind of go through all of them, but one of our loyal fans was telling us basically about the difficulties that I think a lot of people are having problems with Discovery because of the way it's not gelling with the original series. And, should we be, and, it's no different if you're in politics or religion or theology. Do we go, word for word, old school, kind of orthodox, or do we accept the changes that the progressive things that are going on? And I think that's the problem with Star Trek. There's a lot of folks who want to keep the original canon, the original look. We want the cardboard-looking helm and all that, and we don't want to change it. And there's other people like me. It's like, I'm okay with the newer look. I can figure it out. I'm okay with it, knowing that it's the same show, but it's updated production values. But I
have a friend that's a producer over at the local NBC affiliate here, and he kind of had an interesting take on it. It's at Wacky Scanner on Twitter and Instagram. My friend Andy Long. and he basically said that the characters are experiencing everything in continuity, but that the 1960s original series was seen through the lens of the 1960s, and the 1990s, Deep Space Nine was seen through the lens of Deep Space Nine. So through our own lens at the time of the production. So now we're in 2019, and we're seeing things through the 2019 lens. And so the lens changes, but if you can get past the aesthetic change, the story and the experiences are more or less consistent. There's some inconsistencies with like spore drives and things, but the characters aren't experiencing the universe any differently than they always did. We're experiencing our viewpoint of the universe differently, and I kind of like that whole theory that my friend Andy put out there. So, John, let me ask you about this week's episode, which is Saints of Imperfection, episode 5. So, there's lots of stuff going on. They went back to this whole thing where there's so many things going on. Are you feeling good? Are you feeling frustrated? Like, how are you feeling about this week's episode?
Again, I am a pro Discovery guy, but I got to tell you, I felt very frustrated after watching this episode. And it bothered me. Even when I woke up this morning, I was thinking about our discussion we'd have today, and I'm like, what is it about this episode that bothered me? And I've been chewing on it. And we're not going to go review the whole episode like a lot of other blogs do. We want to talk about it because we kind of assume everybody out there's seen it. I would actually say writers of imperfection, and I hate to be so blunt about that. This is what I think made it frustrating for me. This wasn't like a Spock's Brain episode where the whole thing was horrible, or that the production values weren't good. It was the best of times, and it was the worst of times. Pike was phenomenal in this episode. So let me just kind of give you likes and not likes first. Pike, thumbs up, great. Beautiful, another great speech. We're not going to leave Tilly stuck in the mycelium network. She's worth rescuing. We don't leave people behind. Thumbs up. Pike is awesome. Saru didn't have a big part in this one, so I can't give him a thumbs up and thumbs down. Wish he had more. We have Burnham. And again, I've been pro Burnham, but this time I'm starting to get a little burned out on Burnham. So I'm kind of indifferent. On the bridge, Burnham great. With Ash, who is now on the Discovery, bad. Because she doesn't seem to get the fact that I don't trust this guy more than I can throw him. So I'm kind of like up in between with Burnham. Then we had the Stamets issue. He's dealing with the mycelium network, and of course we find out that he's found the Doctor in there now. And so now we're dealing with, they've brought back a character who was killed off in one of the most oh my god moments of last year's season. Now they have brought him back. And we'll talk about that in a second, but I'm afraid I have some problems with that. And Tilly,
it seems, John, like they're kind of digging themselves a hole here. Is that kind of what you're feeling? That they might be digging themselves a hole?
I feel like they are trying to rewrite everything they did last year, and some of the things that I thought they did well last year is they killed off the Doctor. Now that's never a good thing, but it was an important point to building Stamets and his whole, he's been down and out, and that's the human condition. When somebody in your family is murdered or killed or suddenly dies, you have a recovery process. In Star Trek, they don't seem to care about that. If it's Spock or the Enterprise or Tasha Yar, we just find a way to deal them back in a couple episodes. And to me, this is the deal. And if the writers are watching, God bless you all, you got hard jobs. But here's the deal. The part of it is the human condition is about adjusting to pain and suffering and growing beyond pain. When you make us invest in the fact that the Doctor was killed last season and then bring him back through a really, I think, bizarre, strange mechanism through the mycelium network that I really couldn't put my arms around, and how they described it this week, Josh. You've lost me. You've insulted me by saying, oh ha ha, all that pain you went through in the last year's episode, learning all this, we just erased it and we're going to put him back in. And I find that insulting because
which is different from Star Trek 3. They do the same. They bring back Spock, but I mean they have to go through hell and back to get him.
Yes.
They have to go. Kirk loses his son, and the Enterprise gets destroyed.
To quote Sarek, you sacrificed your son, your ship, to get your friend back, and it's not like my mind's rolling backwards here. The original series where Spock kills Kirk, but he didn't kill Kirk. McCoy, faked his death, or in the other episode with the Romulans. Spock gives Kirk a Vulcan death grip. Well, there is no. So that was manipulation. That's war game stuff. That's not. But to kill a character off in season 1 in a very dramatic way, and then just like poof, oh, we figured out a way to put him back in because we like him. Well, it doesn't work like that. And I felt very disenfranchised by the fact that they brought him back. And on top of it all, I know now we're going to end up building this relationship again with Stamets and the Doctor. And I have nothing, it's nothing against their specific relationship, because I also don't like Ash and Burnham's relationship. This is not Love Boat. This is Star Trek. They're supposed to be going out and putting out fires on planets. And we're dealing so much in this relationship stuff, and I don't really want to watch Star Trek for relationship stuff.
So let me ask you this: we're seeing a lot. I mean, there's always been romance in Star Trek every so.
What is love?
So well, like I'm thinking like Picard and Vosh, like for instance, or Riker and everybody.
It's a one episode.
So I mean,
thing.
so are they? My question to you is do you think that up till season 2, episode 5 that these guys are really giving Star Trek fans what they want, or do you think that there are like storylines that we're not talking about that we should be kind of focusing on, that we're getting off to these tangents? Like, what do you think about that?
This is what I kind of think of, Josh, and maybe you follow along. I love Pike. Pike is great. You've talked about that. Pike is great on this show.
Yeah, he's awesome, yeah.
Saru is awesome. He's won me over. I like a little comic relief from Tilly. I don't want to see entire episodes wrapped around her, yet almost a half the season, it seems like, has been wrapped around a subplot with Tilly. Burnham, which we understand is the main character on the show, but she's not the captain. So we have this issue where we're spending so much time with Burnham. But I do want to be on the bridge. I want to be with Pike, and it feels like every episode I get teased. Well, here comes Captain Pike, and we're going to go find Spock, and then boom, for 40 minutes we're off dealing with something else. And it's about relationships, or it's getting somebody back from the mycelial spores. And man, we're almost halfway through the season yet. We haven't gotten to Spock. We've only been on one Good Planet episode. And I just feel like you're wasting my time a little bit here. When do we get to the really good Star Trek episodes? Now, granted, Star Trek, as you and I have discussed many times, has a lot of bad episodes on it. And in a 24 episode season, they would have a third of them would just blow.
Or tankers,
chunks.
yeah, really bad, yeah.
I mean, Next Generation, had a whole first season was horrible. I was never a huge fan of Deep Space Nine because it was different than Star Trek. Like a lot of people argue, Discovery's different than Star Trek. So I just feel like I watch every episode hoping to see Pike, hoping to see phasers loading and put out some fires, and we end up on this trail with how's your boyfriend, how's your girlfriend, how's funny things are Tilly saying, and we're not getting to Spock. We're not getting to what the main, mission statement of the show is, and so I maybe I passed the point now where I'm becoming the grumpy old man, Josh, but I just feel like, it's the old, let's poop or get off the pot Star Trek. Let's start getting back to where we want this show to be, because next week
do you know who else? Do you know who else does this? And maybe this is why I don't know, but The Walking Dead does this very same thing.
Yeah.
Where, I want to see people getting attacked by zombies, and then you have to, I don't mind some character development, some relationship stuff. I think it makes us care about the characters. Yeah. But when it's like too much, and it's just like, we're kind of like, you should watch. There's this thing on YouTube. It's pitch meetings. You should watch the pitch meetings on The Walking Dead, and it's like, yeah, we're gonna have like 22 episodes per season, but most of them are going to be pointless bottle episodes that don't move the plot forward, and then we're going to have two big events at the end of the season, at the mid-season and the end. It's like everything is really just about those two episodes, and it's just a bunch of
fill
now
in between.
I would say that Discovery's not as guilty of that as The Walking Dead has become, but it's a great example of kind of what you're talking about of sort of like really focusing too much on the drama and not what we want to see, which in the case of The Walking Dead is zombies getting killed, and in the case of Star Trek, we want to see Star Trek stuff. We want to see strange new worlds and new civilizations. If I want to explore, Burnham and Ash's relationship dynamic, I'll go watch Dawson's Creek.
Well, and that's what I thought the short treks were supposed to do, was kind of put those side things on there. And I maybe they won't develop anything, but they've put it out there. Here's the other thing that really bothered me, Josh, and of course everybody who's watched my podcast or our podcast here, they know that I'm a big Scotty fan, so I'm a big engineering fan here. And this episode really bothered me, and this is one of the bigger problems, is the special effects and the whole storyline of the ship going into the mycelial network, and essentially it's sinking, and the special effects were great, and you feel like it's capsizing into it, and it's phenomenal. And I'm sitting there, and of course we have Stamets again, who I don't believe is the chief engineer. He's kind of the mycelial network time travel or the jump specialist. He's not like a wrench guy with engineering, but Reno, our new engineer who's on board the ship, we assume is. Last week she showed up with duct tapes and had a great role. This week,
right.
The ship is falling apart. It's being attacked. You see it crumbling apart. Where's Reno? No comment, and it was just really bothersome that they just leave these gaps. And here's what I think the writers don't get. Just like when you drive down the road and you see a police car up in the lane ahead of you, you just automatically you let up off the accelerator and slow down no matter what you're doing. When a ship on Star Trek is in trouble, you press the button and you go engineering what's going on. And we don't do that. We didn't do it a whole lot in the first season of Star Trek The Next Generation, and they're not doing it on this one. They don't get that as Star Trek people, we are conditioned to where's the engineer? There's somebody.
Where's the techno babble? We want to hear about converters and coolant leaks and all that kind of stuff. We want to hear the techno babble, even
Absolutely.
if it doesn't make any sense. Yeah,
that's part of why that's why Star Trek is so good. It's detailed oriented. And again, where was Reno? And then later on in the episode, again, this is how they did the transition, and it bothers me. This feels like where they are jumping off what I would consider one of the greatest tools you have in Star Trek as a writer is the captain's log. They dip the black on the one scene, and they come back up, and it's Pike beaming onto the Section 31 ship. And there's Admiral Cartwright or whatever. I keep getting her confused with the other one, Cartwell or whatever, Cornwell. So he's on with Cornwell. He's like, and again, I'm like, where did you come from? Philippa Georgiou was on the ship recently. Now the Admiral. They don't explain any of that, and it bothers me because as a Star Trek fan, we want to know. And how you fix this, and how they fixed it on every episode is Captain's Log Supplemental. I'm beaming aboard the Section 31 ship, where Admiral Cornwell has just arrived from Starbase 6, and she wants to meet with us on something. But they don't give us that, and maybe they think, well, you figure it out. No, because these pieces of this puzzle fit together, and the captain's log is not being used, and this is where, again, I will side with the anti-Burnham fan base. They've made it about Burnham, and the only logs you really ever hear are Burnham logs. They've made this a kind of almost like, let's talk about Burnham. I want to hear Pike get on there and start every episode. Captain's log, the discovery is on this, we're finding this out, and something else. It's
sort of. I was just thinking about the captain's log really takes the place of the chorus in like Greek plays, and the chorus comes out and tells you what's going on. It sort of sets the scene.
Absolutely.
And so sometimes we have to jump into scenes that we don't have any clue what's really going on.
Yeah, and even if there's typically on the Next Generation, there was typically some type of teaser if it was a part 2. But for, you could open up some of these episodes and just say, Captain's log, we're looking for a solution why Tilly is missing, or something, but we don't have any of that. They could have done Captain's log. Engineer Reno has been transferred to another ship. She'll be back with us next week or something. You do those things so you don't have idiots like me sitting going, where's Reno, with the ship spinning into the mycelial network? Apparently Stamets is the only engineer. So these are the things that are bothering me. I'm hoping maybe that bothered Alex Kurtzman and some of the other people, and they decided this is why we have to have a change in direction. This is more than science fiction writing. This is Star Trek writing, and there's a flavor. Just like you and I both appreciate food. When I go to Wendy's, I want that burger grilled this way, and they're giving me Burger King burgers here at Wendy's. I don't like it. I want my Star Trek technobabble and
hamburger. You want your Star Trek hamburger. Yeah.
I want my Star Trek hamburger. And, well, they had the cheeseburger on last week, for gosh sakes. What's going on? So, anyway. This wasn't a horrible episode, but it just continued to show gaps. And I'm like, when are you guys going to get this straightened up? Because it's so close to being a really good show, and it's like, oh no, we're going to take it down this path now. And I'm like, no, that's not what we want.
Right. It's not like Lost. It's not supposed to be like Lost or Battlestar Galactica. It's supposed to be Star Trek.
Yeah.
If we want Lost and we want Battlestar Galactica, with the tangents and the crossing streams of stories, that's we want our nicely buttoned up sort of Star Trek, linear timeline sort of.
Yeah. So next week looks very exciting. Next week they're going to go, and if you haven't seen Saru's short trek, you need to watch that, because next week is going to be, they go to Saru's planet. It should be your classic Star Trek. They're going to a planet, and they're going to deal with Saru's people and the people who eat Saru's people, who are apparently very large and very dangerous, and there's going to be some type of, back and forth wrecking the ship stuff. And here's the thing, Josh, you know what I'm going to say. That's great. That sounds like a great episode. But then I'm like, the only reason Pike's on the ship is because they're trying to save Spock and find the Red Angel, and that's all but disappeared off of the
Oh, that's
thing.
true. I didn't think of that. Yeah.
And it doesn't make sense. What does Cybox say? Look, share with me. Look into my eyes and share with me your frustrations.
Share your pain. Yeah.
Share your pain with me.
I appreciate all your insight, John, and let's hope that the season sort of takes it, ties up all these loose ends in a satisfying way. And I just like to thank everybody for joining us here in the Neutral Zone for Neutral Zone Chat. You can find us on Twitter. You can find us on Instagram. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us on Prodigy, CompuServe, Friendster, MySpace, anything that has internets. You can find us on the interwebs.
But don't mail us a letter; it won't work.
We don't have a mailbox. All right, everybody, live long and prosper.